What up, guys? Back in the gym. Haven't been here for a little while, and I'm doing a video about my student Brandon Reed, who just competed at the No-Gi Pans and took first at Purple Belt Adult and looked really good, right? And you know, after he won the tournament, he posted up some highlights from the matches and was sharing it on social media and stuff. And as soon as he did that, all of a sudden he gets this flood of messages. People calling him a sandbagger, a cheater, telling him his wrestling pedigree is too much, he shouldn't be at Purple Belt. He competed at the ADCC Championships. What's he doing competing at Purple Belt Adult? Da, 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 da. You know, just people getting all upset about it, right? And, you know, he made a video about it, which I will put down in the links below if you want to check that out, about the fact that he's not a sandbagger and the fact that he doesn't control his belt promotions. I do, right? Because he competes for different people. He trains at a lot of different gyms, but he comes back here to get his belts. And so I wanted to touch on the idea as to why my student, who is an ADCC Championship veteran, who competes at Purple Belt, is not a sandbagger. I'll tell you why. So check this out. With Brandon, and I mean, first off, I think Brandon touched on this in his video. It's funny because when he started training with us a little over 3 years ago, right? He hasn't been doing jiu-jitsu very long. A little over 3 years ago, we promoted him to blue belt almost immediately because I didn't want that friggin' monster to be in here like wearing a white belt and having some poor fella come in for his, you know, trial class, roll with Brandon, get put in the washing machine, although Brandon would be a nice guy, right? But still, he would roll with this guy and then think like, this is what a white belt is, and, you know, look at himself and be like, I'm never going to be good at this stuff if this is like the white belt standard, right? So, you know, promoted him to blue belt almost immediately because of how tough he was. He's never competed in a white belt tournament. I always had him, even when he was a white belt, technically, I had him compete at blue belt divisions and expert divisions in no-gi. But very quickly promoted him to purple belt, right? And when we did that, I remember he got, you know, people getting upset. Oh man, he got promoted too fast. You know, what's jiu-jitsu coming to? People get promoted to purple belt in like a year and a half. Ooh, people getting upset about that, right? And then now he wins his first major title at purple belt, right? He didn't win worlds 2 years ago. He took second, and he did so because of a tactical error from his inexperience, you know. Happens because still relatively young in the sport, but again goes and wins his first major title of purple belt, and then now he's a sandbagger and he's a cheater, you know. And I think just sort of a side tangent, right? Because I mean, I'm always doing side tangents. I feel like this is just the times that we live in, right? People sit around on social media too much and they've become addicted to outrage. You know, I think about it this way. I think of outrage as a drug because you look at people like, you know, 10, 15 years ago, there was like this little bit of outrage, right? They twist the knife in the news and the media and everything else and in social media. Now it's like they just pour it on. It doesn't matter if it's something like the political sphere or just events happening, jiu-jitsu. It's like outrage about everything. Someone is always outraged about something. And the reason why I think it's a drug is because it's like an addiction. And like any addiction or any drug, you need more and more of it to, like, you know, get that attention, get that same sort of like feeling that you got from it before. And like a drug, you don't necessarily like what it does to you, but you can't stop. And I think a lot of people have become that way with the outrage and the hamster outrage wheel that exists on social media and the media and the news and everything else. And so side tangent over, but I think that's why people get all upset about this stuff, right? Spend too much time on social media. That said, here is why Brandon does not have his brown belt. So check this out. First off, Brandon has not won any major title at purple belt. He did pretty well at the No-Gi Worlds 2 years ago. He took second. Should have won that thing, but a tactical error and his inexperience with the rules and everything else cost him. Right, and that's a big deal because part of the reason is Brandon he's an athletic freak who works really, really hard, and he has a mind for grappling and he studies a ton, right? So he gets good really fast, but at the same time, he still lacks a lot of that competition experience that you just need to be a good competitor, right? And so he made that mistake. Now, if I, for some reason, had promoted him to brown belt back then, right, then I would have taken away his ability to compete at IBJJF competitions because the IBJJF requires a minimum amount of time at a particular belt before you can move on. And if I had promoted him to brown belt just because some people get their rash guards in a bunch, he would have missed out on the competition experience that he so desperately needs to become a better competitor. Don't think it's fair to him. Also, when he's competing at purple belt, He will do really well in matches, and sometimes you guys just see the highlights, that sort of thing, but he also has some really grindy matches. At the ADCC trials, he had some matches with some heavyweight purple belt guys. Tough matches, grindy matches. At this last No-Gi Pans that he had, in the finals, he went up against a guy from B Team, had a tough match. It was no walk in the park. So he's not just running through guys. Sometimes, yes, he does run through guys, but then other times he has these really tough matches. And that's the way that it always is, right? You always have a division set up, and there's about, you know, let's say if you have a division of 16, you'll have about 4 to 6 of those dudes that are just animals that will stand above the rest. And then the other ones are going to get chewed through. Not always the case, but you see that more often than not, right? You have the killers of the division versus everybody else, right? And so again, yeah, he's one of the killers, but by no means is he just annihilating everyone that he walks into the mats with. And so again, part of it is, for the reason why he's not been promoted is because I wanted him to have the experience in IBJJF competitions, because he needs it. He's still relatively inexperienced. He's only been doing jiu-jitsu for a little over 3 years. And also for his wrestling, he started in high school. He didn't start wrestling when he was in diapers. Like I said, the dude's just got a knack for this stuff, and he gets better very, very fast. Along with that, he also isn't destroying every single person he goes into. He does beat some guys very decisively, but he also has some tough matches out there. And so again, that is why he's not a sandbagger, and that's why he's not been promoted. Yes, he is on borrowed time with that purple belt, and he'll be getting promoted soon, which he knows about already. But I wanted to share that with you guys again. So maybe for some of you guys, if you take part in the outrage hamster wheel on the internet, maybe not do that as much. It's probably better for you long term. It makes jiu-jitsu a better place to be. But also too, if you were one of those people that were curious about it, maybe you saw the video that he posted, because I know we have some carryover, crossover between our audiences. That's why he hasn't been promoted to purple belt, and I think that's that. So guys, good chat with you. Talk to you next time.